Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Elizabeth Elenor with Pause and an opportunity to reflect on your week, to reflect on your life and where you're heading and what you're doing in your life. And we are going to talk about people pleasing. Are you a people pleaser? Are you a people pleaser that's still going through those motions over and over again and denying your own self, right? We have been conditioned as children to do good, be a good girl, and to support and serve others, right? And it's actually part of our natural nature to, hey Tam, to serve and nurture and support others. It's just part of our nature is to really, as the feminine, that's what the feminine does, is very supportive, very nurturing, right? And we have been conditioned to allow that part of us to override any other parts of our system, and the parts of us that want to create and want to support ourselves to have an amazing life. And that doesn't mean that we're here to be self-centered or to, to just be aggressive in nature and say no to everything. But it does mean actually taking into consideration what you want to do with your life and who you are and your feelings and emotions, right? Because we override those. We override how we want to feel ourselves because we're looking at, things that have stopped us from moving in that direction is that we don't want to be rejected, right? We want to be loved. We want to be supported ourselves. We want to be validated, right? And so our 3-year-old little inner child is still in that process of saying yes to things that she may not want to do. I'll do that for you when you've got too much on your plate already. I will serve you rather than serve myself, right? And I watched it in my own life on a regular basis. And it feels good to be told that you're a good girl, right? It feels nice to be validated. The thing is, and I'd love for you to put in the chat #reflect, because that's what we want to be doing here on Pause, is reflecting on our previous experience and where is it we want to go and what is it that we want to experience in our life. So I'd love for you to put #reflect and let me know in the comments, have you had struggles with being a people pleaser? Is this something that you still are finding challenging, or is it something that you're aware of and you still find yourself going into the default of it, right? Where you're next thing you're saying yes to something when you really don't have time, or you didn't want to do it in the first place, or you know that someone's taking advantage of you because you're a yes person, right? Because you actually do say yes. And people take advantage of that, right? So when you have someone that's constantly being a good girl and a people pleaser, you tend to find that there's a whole heap of people that take advantage of that. And they manipulate. They can be very sincere that, I need you to do this for me, but not really there to validate what you've just sacrificed or your time and effort and how valuable that is for you, right? That while you're doing this thing for that person, you're actually missing out on doing something for you, right? And I don't know about you. I don't know where you're at in your life, but I've got to tell you, life is running fast at the moment. And so looking at all of the pieces of where you sit when it comes to people pleasing, right? Is there something in your life right now that you know you should have said no to and taken and set a boundary? What is it that I'm starting to call it a sacred no. A sacred no. What is it, something that you really wanted to have a sacred no to because you felt deeply into yourself and discovered that this is not something that you wanted to move into, right? Energetically connect with. I know that I was brought up as a people pleaser, big time. I was the only woman, I was the only girl in the house, and my mum worked. She was the alpha female, I'm now calling her. She was the alpha female in our life. I just knew her as a kid that she was never at home. She was always working, right? Now, as an adult, I see that she was working because my dad was sick on a kidney machine, and so she had to look all the time at how to feed the family. But I didn't know that as a kid, and so as a kid, I was cooking and cleaning and looking after the family and doing stuff, chores for my dad, and helping him put the kidney machine together and all of those things that I was doing. And that became a conditioned pattern, right? I then became, when someone asked me, I was very capable as a child. I was at 12 years old. I was cleaning and cooking and shopping for the whole family, right? So then that created this huge capacity to hold a big load from a young age. And so therefore that became part of my superpower, that I can, hold this big capacity and do for others all the time and not necessarily focus on what it is that I want to create. And so as a mother as well, you tend to go into that space of looking after and providing for the family and not necessarily doing what you want to choose. So even your career, right? I know that I could have grown up, luckily I discovered parts of this when I was younger. And so I'm wanting to get you to think and explore what is it that you've said yes to in your life that has, and it was a long time ago, and the repercussions now are holding you back from actually exploring more of who you are and to live the freedom and the fulfillment that you want to at this age, however old you are now, right? What are some of the things that you have engaged in and then, come back all this way and you found that you are in this pattern and this cycle of saying yes to things that, if you'd made the decision way back, that you would not necessarily be in this position now. So put #reflect and let us know in the comments, because it might support another woman that's watching here. We've got a few women on here. And so there's a moment where you've got to draw the line in the sand, right? You've got to actually recognize what it is that you're choosing and why you're choosing it. And then be able to track what those consequences are. What is it that I'm saying yes to, and what am I saying no to? Now, the big thing is, and the big question is, how do I say no when I've been conditioned to say yes? And it's more comfortable, right? Most people find it comfortable. Most women that have been people pleasers, grew up as a people pleaser, have been conditioned to say yes, and it feels uncomfortable to say no, because then what will people think of me? How I physically couldn't say no. I physically couldn't say no. My throat chakra would actually block up, and so it was much easier for me to say yes to things and to do them, and still not feel validated, and then go through that, cycle that you go through of not feeling enough, good enough, worthy, all of those things that come up afterwards. To deal with them myself was so much easier than just saying no and dealing with the consequences of the fear that came around my physical body, right? Like my nervous system didn't know whether I was going to survive that or not. And so that's doing the deeper dive, right? And that's the sort of stuff that we do in my programs, is to look at what is those internal physical experiences, right? Because the nervous system is wired together to have this response, right? Over and over again, when you have something presented to you and you make a decision, you're making a decision from what you've previously done. Your nervous system wires together, you get a physical response to that, and then you react. Generally, we're reacting, right? Unless you're in that higher awareness where you're tuning into your higher self, to your future self, and you know what the steps are. And you've cleared that stuff that's getting in the way. Because the stuff that's getting in the way, it just rears up straight away. And that's why you find yourself in the people pleasing. And then what we tend to do is in that people pleasing, role, we tend to then start making excuses of why we're doing it. We start trying to validate ourselves that actually we feel pretty good about this, and I'm easy to do this, and I'm really good at this sort of stuff, and don't worry, I can handle it, and blah, 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 blah. But these things can lead to a lot of resentment, right? If you keep doing this cycle over and over again, this internal resentment within inside of yourself of your own for not trusting yourself to make a better judgment, but also you start resenting other people. You start loathing, self-loathing can be part of it, or you start loathing some of the stuff that that is coming up for you, and loathing other people and resenting other people when it was you that made the decision in the first place, right? But sometimes we've got to find that blame outside of ourselves, right? So it's really about finding what your boundaries are and standing strong with your boundaries, sticking to what it is that you're choosing, and being able to hold that decision. And you've got to know what it is I stand for. You've got to know what it is I stand for. Who am I in this situation, and what am I saying yes to, and why am I saying yes to it, and what am I tracking? How am I tracking the circumstances, and what will this lead to, right? So all of those things are about self-awareness. So boundaries is a big thing, and people-pleasing is something that takes a little while to unfold and to get to the root of, and to talk to that inner child, right? That little girl that has practiced doing this from the very start. So we're going to be talking more about that in our page, on our Facebook group. I'm just about to launch a 5-day container called Boundaries of Love, and we're going to do a deep dive and look at where did these events come from, where did where did this nervous system actually start hooking in and wire together, and what are some of the boundaries that we've got. That takes a little bit of self-reflection. So if you're interested in finding out more about Boundaries of Love and stepping out of the people pleaser, being able to pick a narcissist straight away and get out of there, stop doing the good girl thing, but still find yourself as an empowered, strong, loving, connected woman, then say yes in the comments, and I'll send you the link when it's ready. It's going to take a little while because we're still in the process of putting it together. And if you just want to have a look at it, just put a yes please in the comment, and we'll send it over to you. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day and keep shining brightly.